Welcome back to another episode of the Set It podcast from 32andmain.com. We are back here in the studio, full speed ahead into 2021. It's a brand new year, brand new us.
We're working on it,
and we're here to track a little bit of progress. It's still early, but I want to know, Zach, after last week's podcast, when you set your goal to get out and walk, I've seen you. I've spotted you a couple times out there.
It's a small town.
You've been keeping the audience updated, but how's it been going?
Not too bad. So I said 6 days. I'm gonna be honest. I got 5.
Okay.
5, in which I'll tell you, I haven't walked 5 times in a week probably since it's been a couple months at least.
Okay.
Right. It's been a while. But the one thing that I've noticed is, when I go into the kitchen or when I go to grab something, like you said it earlier, telling people what you're doing, like there's this, like, it's like the little devil and angel on the shoulders from cartoons analogy. Back in the day, you know? And it's like, I'm like, oh man, you know, I use the example of fruit roll-ups because, or fruit by the foot, because it's like delicious and we've got this huge, and so like, I'm like, ooh, you know, that would be amazing because they're delicious, right? I don't care how old I am. But then at the same time, there's the other on my shoulder going, Zach, remember, you told people you were going to do this. You're going to have to show up. You're going to have to tell people either that you were able to succeed or you're going to have to tell people why you didn't. Right? That's
the accountability factor. You know,
that's what it is.
The people are waiting to hear what you have to say, and even that frequency or just that initial thought, like you're tying that into something else. You're tying that into the audience. There's people who are, I don't want to let those people down. That's kind of part of it, you know?
Yeah. So I'm down like 1.5 pounds, which isn't bad. And it, to be honest, really could just be I was wearing less clothes then than I am now. So I'm not sure if I've lost any weight. But this, again, is something that I have to be disciplined with because I'm wildly impatient. And when you start to do things, you want results immediately. You don't want to wait for things. We don't have to wait for things for the most part anymore. So many things come to us on demand.
Push of a button.
Right, and it doesn't work that way with things like this. So, if we're tracking progress like so far, I feel like I'm on the right track. I feel like the ball has begun to roll forward, like I've begun to move that ball. And there's got to be more. I've got to be better when it comes to my diet. I've got to drink more water, right? But again, these are things that I am going to not build to do, because sometimes I think when I say, well, I'm going to work to that, what I'm saying is, I don't want to do that right now, but maybe I'll want to do it in a week. And it can't be like that.
That's called procrastination.
It is, and I'm really good at that too.
That is your biggest enemy right now.
And so when I say that I'm building to things, I have to be very careful to not allow myself to use that as a shield, as a crutch, as an excuse. Right, because again, you do have to work up to these things, but at the same time, you have to be aggressive in your slow buildup. That doesn't make any sense, but it does.
But more importantly, how do you feel? You said you've never walked 5 times even in like a month before. Like
no. In the last month, I've definitely.
But how do you feel differently this past week? It's only been a week. Do you feel any better?
No, this is the worst part.
This is the worst part.
I don't.
You don't?
I don't. And I don't, because I don't, again, I haven't, it's not as if I have been expunging things completely. I didn't cut out alcohol. I haven't cut out caffeine. So I'm not making these huge changes that you would, like, for example, if I cut out things like drinking coffee, right? Because I like the little creamers. I'm using less of it. But if I cut that out, I would feel a change right away. But is that something that is going to be realistic going forward? And that's where people can chime in here. I'm not sure if some of this stuff where I'm like doing it gradually, if I should just be.
No, and you know what?
I don't know.
I was looking at an article called "The Way We Make Fitness Resolutions Is All Wrong," and it basically reinforces what you're saying. Biting off more than you can chew in the beginning is like the killer of New Year's resolutions.
But what if I'm not biting off enough? That's kind of where I'm coming from.
I think the fact that we're doing this podcast, Zach, is going to allow for a progression where it's like building a house. You got to start with the foundation first. And now, by the end of 2021, maybe you've got the bonus room,
right.
But you got to start somewhere. And, we're laying the foundation, we're framing everything up. And then you get to a point where you can start sprinkling in some of the finishing touches. And I think once you get that exercise routine down that you're happy with, you see some of those pounds coming off, you're going to be looking at that as, now how do I improve my diet and feel that much better? Now how do I do those things? Because if you're trying to do it in one fell swoop, It's a lot to take on. I mean,
it is.
I've been at this point where it's like, that we talked about me doing the Peloton challenge and getting in on that. And I signed up where the goal is to do every day in January to hit that bike. And it is, but you have this constant calendar that's popping up and saying, you're hitting all your days. You're on a streak. It's something that's reminding you that you have to stay on track. And so far, so good, knock on wood. It's early, but it's made me not want to do the things like drinking, because if I'm doing more of a drier January, I feel better about myself because I can go in and I can't. Doing that Peloton bike for 30 minutes when you just drank the night before is rough. I've done it once so far since we talked, and you just don't want to do it as much because you have this thing facing you in the morning, and it's that much more of a challenge. So that's kind of where I'm at with the Peloton aspect of it, but it's one small part of something bigger.
And that's what I got to remind myself as we go through this. So, moving forward, Zach, one of these days we should do something together.
I'm in on that. I want to follow you along with I want to see the course. You've let the audience in on some of the you'll recognize some familiar,
if you're from around here. Yeah.
You'll recognize some of the spots. But I want to see what it's like, what that 45-minute walk looks like, and
we'll grab a couple of microphones and a backpack, and we'll make it happen.
Yeah, I like it. And if you see Zach walking around town, don't forget to give him a little honk. He's hard to miss.
One thing I have thought about too maybe is, is it worth it for me to drive a couple of miles and then in a car and then walk around elsewhere? We live in Romeo, and it's small, and
you can cover the whole town in a matter of
2 days,
few hours.
Well, I mean, because I'm not out there walking forever and ever, right? But after a couple of days, it's like I think I'll walk out of my front porch and I'll think, all right, where haven't I gone? And I'm like,
So let me ask you this:
I need to get more creative.
You fell one day short of your initial goal, which is fine. No judgments here. And this is the no judgment zone.
Well, and excuses are what they are. My wife bought me a smoker for Christmas, and
it's easy to be distracted.
And the ribs took longer than I thought they would, and I couldn't walk away from it. I could have, but I didn't.
That's fair. You don't want to walk away.
But no, I did. I did. But I'll tell you this: the day that I knew, because it was, so I'd walked 4 days, and so I knew that next day I got out and walked.
Yeah.
So I made sure at least it was 5, and because sometimes you have this tendency when you miss once, you're like, that rack it till next week. We'll try again.
And that's the thing. It's like, how long until that becomes the
norm?
The norm. Yeah, you want to avoid that. So I think it's important, even if it's only half as long next time. Even if just to get that one last walk in to stay on that.
My dad always said, just do something. It doesn't matter what, even if it's 5 minutes.
It's a huge. It's
a mental thing at that point.
Staying in that routine. Yeah. So, just something to consider. Hopefully we can get to the point where you hit that 6 walk mark for the next week.
And we talked about schedules. This is going to be one of those weekends, right? Where we're taping this on Friday. I have to work Friday overnight. So my shift starts at 10:30 Friday night. I get off at 6, and then I have to be back at 5 Saturday to work my normal Saturday, and then again on Sunday.
That's a lot.
And then again on Monday. So I've got this but again, this is one of the things we talked about. I have to be able to overcome, because I can't change my work schedule.
No, and
I can't let it dominate me either. And
I agree.
So I got to find that. So this weekend, Zach, is going to be, I'll keep you updated on Facebook and Twitter. It's going to be a big one. This weekend's going to be a big one. But, Zach, it's your turn now.
I'm up.
To set a goal. And look, we're not going to have new goals every week. Just we can't have competing 26 goals, each of us every
And we want to talk to other people about their goals as well.
And we're going to. But to get things started, Zach and I felt that we should both be on a path to changing something. And, Zach, mine has been more physical, but certainly making positive physical changes will result in mental changes.
Absolutely.
But you're going straight for the dome. You're going straight for the mental change.
Literally. Yeah. Straight for the dome. Because, I've been with you on the Peloton kick. I've been very conscious of the fact that I need to get back into better shape. I've been doing things, trying to eat better, drink less, stay on target. But there's one thing, that's always kind of eluded me, and that's the mental aspect of everything.
How so?
Life is just one stressful moment after the next. I'm on this.
It's amazing how true that is.
You talk about the schedule, and your work schedule tends to fluctuate. Mine's pretty consistent, but it's overwhelming. I've been on this pattern of work of 6 days a week on average. I'm probably consistently working close to 60 hours a week, and that's been the norm for at least the last 5 or 6 years. That's talking, no vacations, very little time off, and a lot of my life has changed in those last 5 or 6 years too.
You have about to have 3 kids. I mean,
got the third kid on the way.
You're married, that kind of stuff. The change is monumental.
My wife works full time. We're very, especially now with the pandemic, we're staying at home a lot more, and the stress of that third kid is becoming real.
And your life is like point A to point B.
3 kids under 4 is basically what we're going to have, and that's a handful in and of itself. And
there's nowhere to go for relief. You're going from point A to point B over and over and over again. Work, home, work, home, work, home, work, home, work, home. That's it.
The stress of work rolls into the stress of managing the kids.
Remember when getting home used to be not stressful? Do you remember? Seriously?
Barely. I mean, it's hard to recall sometimes. We used to, my wife and I always say, like, what did we used to do when we had all this free time? Because we weren't really traveling. We weren't doing a lot of stuff. Like, you would just basically, you'd eat out a lot. You'd go and you'd watch movies together.
What do you do? Whatever you want.
And that's a huge thing that you lose when you have kids. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But, I personally have to work on.
Yeah, I love it too. I meant to say that.
My patience with the kids, my stress, because it boils over. And I'm just being honest here. It boils over into the personal relationships between husband and wife, between the kids, and my stresses at work.
How couldn't it
carry over to home? And with the third kid on the way, I want to try to eliminate that. And there's been one thing that I've always heard about, I've always been interested in pursuing, but it always felt a little weird to me. And that's, it's more getting your mind right and focused. So when I say to you, TM,
trademark.
What do you think? Trademark. That's what immediately comes to mind.
I'm sorry. I'm not going to come to transcendental meditation immediately. It's just not.
Yeah, it's not the common thing. And transcendental meditation is something that I've heard other people talk about before. It's mentioned by a lot of people who are.
It's got quite a heady name. I mean, you're talking about transcending things like. That's not something small.
It's not at all, and it's something that is, it's amazing how much I'm seeing it now that I've become aware of it. But my goal, to basically make a long story short, is I want to start incorporating transcendental meditation into my daily routine.
So you say that to you, this feels weird. Like this is going to be
so weird. So weird for me to do it.
But which is odd to me because look, and for those of you that don't know, Zach and I have known each other for a long time. I mean, a long time.
30 years?
Yeah, and we're only in our mid-30s, right? So, I mean, it's not as if there's been like this. So, but I know you as somebody, especially as an adult, that is, somebody that is conscious of what happens around you, somebody that does think about the world outside and the world within. So to me, this kind of reflection wouldn't be uncommon for you. To me, it doesn't, I'm surprised that you say that.
I think it's more of just that whole type thing.
Is that actually what happens with that?
Well, to a certain degree, and I have a lot to learn about it. It's not something that is you can just pick up overnight. It's like anything else. You're going to have to practice, right? And you're going to have to kind of go through the routines. I've been looking up a little bit. There's YouTube videos. There's a lot of stuff, but like some other things, that TM that's a brand essentially. It's a type of meditation. There's so many different forms of meditation out there, and I don't think one is necessarily better than the other.
So help me out. What are you going to do? Help me out here.
Okay, so here's basically what it consists of.
Because I'm also clueless when it comes to this.
So it's basically just a time, roughly 15 to 20 minutes per day, twice a day, where you're sitting down and you're basically just focused on breathing, you kind of cut out the surrounding noise around you, and you just kind of take moments to reflect on, you concentrate on the breathing first and foremost. That's kind of like the beginning step of
the regulation.
this. But you're just clearing your mind of all the clutter. You're allowing thoughts to come in, but then you always have something that brings you back to the original focus. And that's what they kind of call like your mantra. So there's something that you can always refer back to bring you back into focus. It's okay to let other thoughts come in. It's okay to be surrounded by
So you have to pick one thought and stick to it? Is that?
That's what brings you back to center, basically.
Okay.
So listen, I'm not an expert on this by any means, but I've got to start
I know nothing.
somewhere.
Absolutely.
But it's just a moment to reflect on, you. It's a moment to reflect on what else is going on around you. You can be aware of what's going on around you, but it's an opportunity to just be. How often do we do nothing? Very rarely. It's very rare.
So, yeah, I'm not sure. Never.
Yeah, right. It's
Never.
always checking a phone or...
Oh, wait, no. I lied. I have a decent drive to work.
Okay.
I got to tell you, sometimes...
You just turn off the radio.
And maybe and people are like, that commute's terrible. I'm like, is it?
Oh,
is it terrible? And the answer is yes, it is terrible. But because if it was just driving on wide open roads, it would be fine. But it's not, and you guys are crazy, and I hate driving with all of you. It is what it is. But I'm on 696, right? I'm on Mound. I mean, but I can listen to my podcast. I can listen to the radio. I can listen to nothing, which
but that's and that's the thing. You are essentially, when you are listening to the podcast or the radio, I mean, you're doing something. You have something coming in. It's
right, but it's not. But I don't have to participate.
You don't have to focus necessarily.
I mean, I'm driving.
It's how often do you just?
That's what I'm. So if you're talking about like, because I feel like, we've talked about the schedule, like, so I work at night, but during the day, if I'm like sitting around, I'm like, everybody else is working. Like you should do something. And I'm with you, dude. I think really giving because especially when you become a family person, like taking time to yourself seems kind of selfish.
It does. And it's a rarity. I mean, and that's why, like, a lot of my routine is, when I get up early, I get up at about 4:30.
That's crazy.
I get a solid hour before I start to hear my oldest son, Harrison. He gets up like 5:30 in the morning every day. And so my time is cut very short.
If you get up at 4:30, you should get at least 2, if not 3 hours to yourself.
That's what I think too. That was my initial goal, but it wasn't really working. He had other plans.
And our son he used to do that, but never that early. And and this is not something that's like a phase, right? I mean, for him, it's been pretty consistent.
Yeah. But I mean, regardless, it just goes, there's little, cause I'm not going to do this while I'm not going to ignore my family. I say, hey guys, sorry, can't pay attention to the kids right now. I got to go meditate for 20 minutes. No, it's got to be on my own time.
You wouldn't be able to anyway. Have you ever tried to keep a kid away from a closed door? It's like, it's impossible.
That's why the whole working from home thing with the kids at home, I don't know how people do it. But I mean, I think this is very important for me to just get in the right mindset, have the right attitude moving forward. I've been so concerned over the last year about more like outside forces, I guess. And to me, the only way for like personal success is to ignore that, is to get that out of the way and just be focused on the things that you really appreciate and the things that you want out of life.
This podcast is about taking the power back. This is exactly what we're doing here. I mean, you have described our mission in a nutshell. I mean, that's it.
And step 1, getting the body right. Step 2, getting that mind right in line with it. I don't think you can have a healthy lifestyle by ignoring one or the other. I think it has to be an all in on this. And moving forward, I think that will allow me to accomplish more things long term.
I think because you hit the Peloton in the morning too, right? I think if you gave yourself 15 minutes on either side of that, after 45 minutes, I'd imagine you'd feel pretty damn good. You got to ride in and a mental cleanse.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I think that's been a huge thing. And I said this on the first podcast, when we were back doing the primo mindset and really getting into that routine of just being better, like I felt the best I had ever felt before, and it got away from me. And now I'm trying to get back to it, and this is one step. And it's funny too, because in my Netflix queue, there was a new show that was Headspace's guide to meditation.
Why does the internet always have to read our minds?
It's very so intuitive. But I think that's because it's the new year. People are they're doing what we're doing. They want to improve themselves.
Yeah, but when you open Facebook, there's going to be ads for yoga mats. I guarantee it. Now that we've had
my wife's got a couple of those. I can, but so I did start watching that the last few days. I've done one episode every morning, and it takes you through. It's not specifically TM, but it's meditation where it'll take you through that process. It'll, you'll start to, it'll show you different ways of doing it to find one that fits best for you. So I've participated in those early in the morning. And it's, do I feel any different right now as a result of doing it a few times? No. And I didn't expect to, you know what I mean? I'm not looking for a quick payoff here.
That's right.
And I think I think it has to be one of those consistent twice daily routines that they talk about, because, I think it's that pattern, it's that scheduling, and that's going to be hard to do because 2 times a day, once a day, okay, maybe you can find the time, but I'm going to have to do it before the kids get up and after the kids go to bed, still do my workouts, still have time with the wife after the kids go to bed. Luckily now at work, we're slower, so it's a little bit easier to accomplish these things. But then how do I manage that as we get busier too? How do I manage that when the third kid comes? Right. That's just a couple months away. So, I look at this as an opportunity to do it now and see where that gets me in a couple months. So my goal would be to implement this on a daily routine, at least once a day to start out, because I think twice a day is an unrealistic goal right off the bat. I'd like to do it once per day in the morning, get that down for a few weeks, and then try to implement it into the twice daily routine. I'm going to set up a spot at home that's kind of a dedicated area, nice and comfortable, nice and cozy, nice and quiet, where I can consistently do this, and I always have a place to go.
I think that having a place to go is great. I think dedicating a spot to it is smart. You see it, it's there. You don't have to do anything. It just enter the space. And I think, if you're able to do it, because you have that hour you set in the morning, right? So if you can take 15 minutes out of that hour and make that into a routine, once it becomes part of your routine, absolutely add the second. Again, people are saying, well, we're just talking about 15 minutes here, guys. Why couldn't you do this twice a day?
It seems so simple on paper. Yeah, but now think about your schedule and how crazy and chaotic it can be at any given time. And that's something I want to explore down the road too. It's like, what happens when you do have setbacks? Because, even on a workout routine, some of the stuff that got me away from it was just, you get sick. You're not feeling good. You pull a muscle. You feel you're out of it. How do you get back into it after things outside of your control stop you?
Right.
We all get out of funk. There's days we don't feel like doing things. But to me, this is, it's going to be interesting.
That's a great point, that the hardest thing to do is starting. The second hardest thing to do is restarting.
That's almost harder in my opinion.
It is. And because you've seen, you had success, you felt good about that. And then you feel terrible about. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. She's a doctor, a very smart woman, and she said something to me, and it was so right. Like, think about, we'll use each other as the example. If you fell short of your goal, I would be very encouraging towards you. If I fell short of my goal internally, the swear words, the shame, we are so hard on ourselves. Yeah. But we're so most people are compassionate outwardly. Yeah. Right? We need to treat ourselves the way I need to treat me the way I would treat you in that scenario. You got to be tolerant of yourself.
And I hope we can get her on the podcast at some point, because she's, when we talk about Zach and I not being experts, well, sometimes you got to talk to the experts.
Well, but I think that's what part of this podcast is. Again, this is not a self-help podcast. This is not really even anything educational, but that doesn't mean that we can't learn along the way, right? And we do need to hear what other people think. There are people that have and again, here's what's great about this podcast is the experts, fabulous, but you don't have to be an expert to weigh in on these situations. You said it so well in the first podcast. For you, maybe there are people that didn't meditate before that do now, and they can tell you how they get into it. And maybe some people have always been, I know that's not something you could always be, but people are doing it for years and years and years, and they can tell you how they've stuck with it, why they stuck with it, and the benefits that they've seen. So you can get it from anybody.
I've seen a lot of people, and I kind of put this in my notes too, just to kind of touch on it, because there's a lot of people who are in the spotlight and who have been very successful in life.
I'm here for Tom Hanks. Here for Tom Hanks.
They swear by this. So right off the bat, I'm just going to run through a quick list of people who practice that. The Beatles. I mean, early on, they were one of the original practicers of this transcendental meditation.
Seems very John Lennon.
Doesn't it?
Yes.
But there's always that. If you go back through some of their albums, you can really see the influence of that, because they were actually really close with the guru who started this whole movement. The Beach Boys were another band, but some more current celebrities: David Lynch, Jerry Seinfeld, Howard Stern.
Damn.
Oprah.
How do you think David Lynch meditates? It's probably scary.
It's probably crazy.
Yeah, I don't want to know.
The stuff that rattles through that head. Nope. Hugh Jackman, Tom Hanks, Ellen DeGeneres, and Jennifer Lopez. I mean, those are all people who have had immense career success, and part of that is just mentally preparing and staying in that mindset.
What's the deal with meditation? Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, right? You have to be, now, the one thing I will say is you have to be careful with what famous people, and I'm not talking about the liberal media and elite Hollywood. I'm just saying, there are people you go to Goop.
Oh,
right? Gwyneth Paltrow, and they're like, "This will help you," and then you look and you're like, "This is $700," and you're like, "Wait a second."
Well, and but
I'm not saying that's what you're doing.
No, but that's the thing, and that's part of the weirdness for me when I said that originally.
This is
yes, the weird, because
this is what's happening in the hills of Hollywood,
right? The culty aspect of it, because there's a lot of for every positive, there's religious aspects to this too, and I'm not looking to implement this in as a religious practice, because they even said it couldn't be taught in schools at one point because it had the tie to Hinduism. But these are the things that I think if you're doing it for yourself personally, like we said, all these goals are very personal.
There's a course.
Yeah, you can pay to take courses. Like I said, this is like a brand.
So this would be like Bikram yoga, where people are like, it's not hot. It is hot yoga, but not all Bikram yoga is hot yoga. Not all hot yoga is Bikram yoga.
And like CrossFit, how CrossFit was it was like a brand. You were paying into the CrossFit brand when you were opening those facilities.
What was the one, all those workout fads from, I just think of 90s infomercials, right? Who was Billy Blanks?
I was going to say Billy Blanks, Tybo. We used to do that in middle school, in Fred Brewer's.
May he rest in peace.
Yeah.
Those videos, those were super intense, right? He was always super sweaty, and he was yelling, but he wasn't yelling at you. He was yelling in
And all these things are kind of fads. P90X. There's when we were growing up, it was really big into the Solo Flex, the Bow Flex, the Nordic Track,
and that guy was those guys are always so cut on those.
Remember the Gazelle?
Yes,
the Gazelle.
Tony,
the guy with the ponytail.
Oh, and his ponytail was curly. Oh, I can't think of his name.
I know,
then going back even further, remember I'm doing it right now with my legs, the Thigh Master.
Suzanne Summers.
I have to look up the Gazelle because that's really going to bother me.
But it's no different than a brand. I'm not going to take these courses. I've
Tony Little.
Okay, there you go.
Sorry.
I'm not going to take any of these courses. I'm going to do what works for me. Is that the right way to do it? Maybe not, but we'll see if things advance, if I progress, if I'm looking for.
If it doesn't work, you can try something else.
But what I want to do too. You've done a great job of keeping the audience informed of what you're doing.
Sometimes I think it's too obnoxious. Do I keep doing it?
How many times can you talk about going on a walk and you're? But I think that's that's what people want to see. So I'm going to try to kind of like keep a quote unquote blog or diary about, how I feel on a weekly basis. How has this changed my state of mind? Has it changed my state of mind?
It's like Picasso and the drawing, the self-portraits just get crazier. Hopefully it goes the other way.
I'm like slowly, Zack's losing it. He's just like in the corner, rocking back and forth.
Too much TM.
But no, I want to keep you guys updated and keep everybody informed and see, am I sticking to this? Am I getting any benefit from it? I don't know what the answer is going to be. So we'll see what happens.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's exactly it, right? We don't know. That's the thing. And I don't know if this is the right way or the wrong way. We don't know if what we're doing is going to work. We think it will. You think if you stick to, certainly if you're able to stick to it religiously, it will work, no pun intended. But can we stick to it? Are we setting things that are manageable, that are reasonable? And there's only one way to find out, and you got to just do it.
But do you even enjoy it at the end of the day? That's the other thing. Like, you should not be going on your walks if you don't really enjoy your walks, because you should enjoy your walks. I mean, that should be a time where you can,
and I do like them.
Yeah, and I think that if this is something that I see a positive result in, why wouldn't I want to stick with it? This podcast could have easily been called Seeking Self-Improvement, because at the end of the day, life is short. You only get one life, depending on what you believe in. But right. Excuse me, you want to make it the best you can make it. And I think that's what this is all about. And especially, like I said, so many outside forces pulling you in different directions. Time to take control. Take a little bit of control.
And that's what we're doing here. So we'll be back again next week, and check us out at 32inmaine.com. There's a lot of other stuff going on there too as well that you may enjoy, but Zach's going to keep blogging. We'll get that going. I'll keep making those videos, and we'll keep making this podcast. And if you have a goal, let us know about it. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us at 32inmaine.com. Or if you have advice for Zach or for me about how
have you been in our position? Do you have any advice for us? We're going to talk to people who are more making this part of their habits as well. People who are focused on goal setting. Hopefully the doctors, some other people who are involved in those kind of things. And we're going to be reaching out to people we know to come onto the show, so you guys get to hear a different perspective. It's not just going to be Zach and I week in and week out. We want to get other people involved in this as well, because that's one of our goals.
Right, absolutely. And again, it can't, part of the goal setting, you can't, self-improvement can't happen all at once. Whatever you're trying to fix, or not even fix, I don't like that. Whatever you're trying to change, whatever you're trying to improve, like I have more than one goal this year, but I can't tackle
them. Otherwise this podcast is going to be.
I know, but I can't tackle them all at once. And so again, we have to bring in other people, and that's what we want to do. Because again, the goal of this podcast is to create a community of support and of ideas. And that sounds very culty, but it's not. And
I swear.
What I mean, yeah, look into my eyes. But again, it's the notion that other people are going through what we're going through. Other people have gone through what we've gone through, and I want to know how they did it. I'm not going to tell them what to think. I want to know what they think so I can use it. And you're not going to take everything everybody says, but you take bits and pieces here and there, and you use it to educate yourself.
I couldn't have said it any better myself.
32inmaine.com. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and of course, subscribe to this podcast wherever you get yours.